Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Ami Feiner, and together with me is Ilan Komarovsky from our pre-sale department. And today's webinar is about VMS project design. How to design the right project, how to calculate what you need for the project when it comes to hardware, licenses, and so on. We prepared a very interesting seminar for you, about an hour long. If you have any question, feel free to write it in the chat. I will ask on behalf of you at the end. And let's start. Ilan, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I assume that you can hear me properly. So, Ami, thank you for introduction, and let's run. So, this presentation, as was described, is about preparing properly and calculating the equipment you will need for any kind of project. So, basically, the reason we started and invested energy into building a solution for you guys and for us as well is to avoid some misunderstanding or miscalculation of the projects. So you will be able to put all the information related to the project that will require VMS into one some kind of form, and this form is going to spill out all the information and all the equipment you will need eventually to fulfill this project. Okay, so you're going to see a tool that will calculate all the aspects related to the project, like bandwidth and what exactly the power needed for every server, how many channels or devices are involved into it, what is the bandwidth required to hold on all those cameras. What about the licenses needed, like if it's Provision-ISR cameras or it's going to be third-party cameras, NVRs, what about storage? So everything we're going to touch is included in the tools that you're going to learn about today. Basically, the reason we are doing it is our slogan and motto is basically to share information with our partners and provide you with all the tools so you'll be able to do all this planning by yourself. Okay, so what do you need to know when you're operating or working with VMS system? So when you have multiple sites, let's say 50 different fuel stations or 20 different mini markets, supermarkets, whatever, or maybe independent cameras which are not connected to any NVR and they just broadcast without any local recording. So all of it is streamed to some place, and this place could be like a central monitoring place that is mandatory to have some servers. So it could be either our Provision-ISR management server, or it could be third-party management server, which is all customers' owned hardware. So on top of it, just a second. On top of it, we have another function that you will need to do in this monitoring center, which is to allow the user to monitor those streams from those different cameras. Like, and in this case, he will need to use either our hardware, which is a small client, or it could be his own computer, which is going to even connect to multiple monitors and show him different sites and different streams. On top of it, there is a video wall. So if the customers want to get those video streams from those servers, he is going to use video wall. So multiple users will be able to monitor different areas and sites. And the last consumption, or actually the client type, is the app. So the Ossia VMS has an app. So you can use your smartphone to connect to the management server by static IP, and using your user and password, you'll be able to see only the cameras you are allowed, authorized to see. And the last part is recording. So once you're already seeing and monitoring those sites and you're getting some notifications, maybe in some cases you would like to record it locally to have like a backup in case there is any problem. So you can use either our Provision-ISR storage server, or you can use a third-party server, which is, again, machine which is going to have some hard drives and record all those streams. Okay, so we are talking about 3 different operations, and we are going to cover it all later on. Now, if we're talking about calculation, eventually what you need is to calculate this pi. This pi is representing the bandwidth. So the bandwidth is something that is actually limitation of the hardware we have on a server or a transfer server. So in total, we have 5 different customers or consumers of this bandwidth. The first one is the app. So anytime you open an app and you see some cameras, you are consuming bandwidth. You are dragging it from the management server or transfer server. So this is the first cost. Second cost is the clients. So you can have our client or a third-party client, and eventually, anytime he's going to open a window and see some of the cameras, he's going to consume this bandwidth. The third one is recording. So if you have a recording server on site and you want to record it into the storage server, then every stream you are dragging from this bandwidth is going to cost, and this is going to be another consumer of the bandwidth. The fourth one is a video wall. The same logic like the other ones, like the app and the client, it's the same logic. So we're talking about some device which is getting a stream from the bandwidth and displaying it on the video wall. So it has another cost. And the last one, but not expected maybe by some of you, is the events. Let's say that you have 20 different NVRs that bring you 200 in total cameras. If those cameras are monitoring some area which has some dynamics into it and you have a lot of events, every event is pushing an image to the VMS server, and every event is actually cost you 250 kilobytes for every event because it brings automatically the image with it. So we need to take into account all those images that are pushed into the server, and we need to calculate it in our calculation of the bandwidth. Okay, now we are switching now to another topic, which is related to understanding the terms. So what is the difference between camera and the device, or channel and device? So let's take, for example, our small server. So this small server has some limitation regarding how many cameras you can connect with. So anytime you connect a camera like this camera and then second camera and third camera, no problem. But when you're going to reach to camera number 65, he's going to block you because he can connect to 64 devices, which means that every device here is actually every camera is a device here. But if you're going to use NVR, let's, for example, take NVR 64 channels and another NVR 64 channels and another one, and each one is bringing you actually 64 cameras. So on totally, you have 4 devices, okay? Which means that you are connected basically to some centralized points, and each one is bringing 64 cameras. So in total, you are actually capable of getting up to 256 channels or 64 devices. In this case, you're using only 4 devices. So basically, you are getting to this maximum amount of channels or cameras, and it's okay. This server can handle it. Okay, it's all about if you're connecting it directly, and in this case, it's a device, or you're connecting it after NVR. In this case, it becomes a channel. Next one, how do we expand VMS server? So the only way we can expand VMS server is only if we're talking about the biggest server. So we have 3 types of servers. We're going to talk about it, but the biggest one is Excel. This is the one that you can actually extend and add some more servers to it. So it could be, for example, a storage server, or it could be a transfer server. So you can connect more and more cameras. So if you look, for example, inside the management server, you will see a lot of cameras which are inside this one. Okay. If you want to add another storage server, you'll find another one that is holding some other cameras, and we're going to talk about it because he's not going just to record it, he's going to be as well a transfer server. And the next one is transfer server. So he's connecting to more and more cameras. So your train is becoming bigger and bigger. So you can create like a big train with thousands of cameras, and transfer server 2, transfer server 3, and you can expand it theoretically up to 10, up to 100 servers, okay, of different types. So this is basically how you can extend and expand your server. Now let's talk about the hardware capabilities of our Excel server. And this is the only one that we, again, can expand. So the bandwidth of the server is 880 megabps. This is the maximum capacity of the network cards. The total amount of devices, you remember I talked about devices, is directly connected either NVR or camera. So in this case, if you're talking about NVR or DVR, it's 300. If we're talking about IP cameras, we are talking about up to 500 directly connected cameras to this Excel server. But if you're talking about channels, which are cameras behind NVRs, then we can get up to this number, but only for this hardware. Again, this hardware can be extended. So this number is not final. We can go more and more and more by adding more and more servers. So it will look like this. This is our hardware. Okay, this is the limitation I just mentioned. When I want to extend it, the extension could be transfer server number one, okay, and more and more and more. And each one of them is actually exactly the same hardware. It's exactly the same Excel management server. You just configure it differently. So it's going to bring you exactly the same capabilities and even the same licenses in it. Okay, so when we're talking about transfer server 2, again, we're expanding and we're making our train longer and longer. And the same goes up to the last one, which is theoretically up to transfer server 100. Okay, so in total, if we look at the limitation of the whole system, of the whole train, your train can hold up to 30,000 channels or devices. So we're talking about a project where you can be connected to up to 30,000 cameras. Okay, now let's talk about some other topics that is mandatory to understand before we start talking about the calculator, the tools that I'm going to show you. So if we are using a transfer server, if you actually need to expand it, to expand this Excel server with more servers, so when we add transfer server one, and then suddenly the customer requires a storage server, then you need to know that this storage server is actually working on this in the same time as a transfer server as well. So you don't need to buy another transfer server. This unit is going to hold and connect more cameras, but on top of it, it's going to record it locally. Okay, so you need to remember that anytime you add storage server, you're basically buying a transfer server with it, but this one is working for recording as well. The only thing you need to know is that this unit has no licenses. This transfer server, because it's exactly the same hardware, has already the licenses this one has, but this one is only for storage. So it will just give you more hardware capabilities, but the licenses to connect more and more cameras is something that is not included in this unit. I'm going to enhance this point again, just to make sure that you understand. So if you're looking at it mathematically, what you have here is a VMS management server. This is what it brings about the devices and VR or directly connected cameras. And this is the total amount of channels. Remind you, this is cameras behind NVRs. And this is the bandwidth. So every time you are adding more and more transfer servers or storage server, you're extending the amount of devices you can connect, amount of cameras you can connect to the whole system, and the bandwidth of the whole system. Okay. Eventually, when you add more and more and more of those servers, you can get up to these numbers that I mentioned previously, up to 30,000 devices or channels. Usually, I'm going to talk about channels. Okay, now let's make sure that you understand this point. So let's talk about an example. We have 200 NVRs that each one is bringing us only two cameras, and every camera is 2 megapixels. So in this case, if we are doing a small calculation, we are going to have here 200 NVRs. Actually, we don't care about NVRs. We're talking about 200 NVRs multiplied by two cameras in every NVR and multiplied by 2 mega. It brings us 800 megabps.
No, we
So
do
in this
care about
case,
the we do care
yes,
about the
yes, but
NVR.
I'm talking
NVR
about,
is a
yes, exactly.
device.
Exactly. So in this case, you are right, Ami. We're talking about NVRs. So we have 200 devices, which is lower than 300 that we have in the limitation. But just to make sure that we understand, this number is both of those numbers, 200 and 800, are lower than the maximum capacity of the Excel server. Okay, so there is no problem. We can use just one server. But let's say that we have 350 NVRs, and those NVRs are connected just to one camera of 2 megapixels. Now, when we do multiplication, when we do the calculation, we're basically getting into 700 megabps, but this is going to be 350 devices, which is 50 more than the maximum capacity of devices you can connect to the Excel server. So in this case, we are over and we need to add another transfer server. Okay, another example. If we have 200 NVRs, and those NVRs are bringing us two cameras, but of 4 megapixel, okay? So in this calculation, we are getting to 1,600 megabps. So we are again over the maximum capacity of Excel server, and this is why we will need additional transfer server. Okay?
Sorry, Ilan?
So, yes?
Sorry, Ilan?
Yeah.
I want you guys to pay attention. There are three main figures we need to look at: devices, megabit per second, and channels. Those are the three main criteria we need to look when we spec a project. In the example on the left, everything was okay. Everything was standing in what the one Excel server bring us: less than 300 devices, less than 2048 channels, and less than 880 megabit per second. In the next two example, but one of the figures, doesn't matter which one, exceed the ability of the server. In the example number two, instead of 300, we have 350 devices. It's more than what Excel can hold, and therefore you need the help from a transfer server. In the last example, we have 1,600 megabit per second, more than what Excel gives us, 880, and therefore we need additional transfer server. Hope it's clear now. Sorry, Ilan, go ahead.
Thank you, Amin. So next one, let's talk about licenses and the money eventually. So there is every server, anytime you connect to it, has a specific limited amount of third-party channels. So let's see what is exactly the logic of connecting the devices and how much licenses it consumes. So any one of those servers, small, medium, or Excel server, anytime you connect a direct device, which is a Provision-ISR camera, you use just one Provision-ISR channel license, okay? Doesn't matter how much you have for free, how much you need to extend, this is what you need to understand. Now, if you're talking about third-party camera, HIG, DAO cameras, anytime you connect those directly, you are using one third-party channel license, okay? It's a different license type. But what you need to know is when you're connecting Provision-ISR and VR, but behind those Provision-ISR and VR, you have four third-party cameras, we still are going to talk about those licenses as for Provision-ISR channel licenses because you are connected to the NVR of Provision-ISR, okay? So this one, when those cameras are hiding behind him, we are taking into account that those cameras are Provision-ISR cameras, okay? This is number one. Next, let's talk about how many licenses you have in every server. So the small and medium server, they cannot be expanded with more and more licenses, okay? Whatever you have inside those servers, this is it, okay? If you go over it, you will need another server, okay? So the small one, you can get up to 256 Provision-ISR cameras, channels, or 64 devices. This is what I showed you previously in the slide. But if you're talking about third party, we're talking about 32 channels that are included in this server, okay? So you can use them and connect third-party cameras. Okay, now if we're talking about medium, this server, and this is usually used in major projects, is having already 512 Provision-ISR channels or 300 devices, which is going to be enough for a medium-sized project. And if you're talking about third party, then you can use our embedded 128 third-party channels. Okay, this is included in the price of the hardware. Okay, but again, I need to remind you, it cannot be expanded. So if you have just one extra channel, you cannot connect it to the server, you will need another solution. Next one. When we're talking about Excel server, okay, or big management server, in this case, you can expand this unit. So you can connect more and more transfer servers and you can use up to 512 Provision-ISR channels. So exactly like in medium, it's the same number of free included licenses. And you can get with this expansion up to 30,000 channels. But there is only 64 third-party channels embedded into this hardware. So any time you need to add more and more third-party channels, you will need to buy extra licenses. About the third-party server. So if you are taking a software of VMS server and you install it on third-party hardware, then you can again get to up to 30,000 channels. But you are getting for free 32 Provision-ISR channels and only 16 of a third party. Okay, this is just to start with, to see that you connect to the devices, and anytime you need to expand with third party, then you need to buy more and more licenses. About this topic, I just wanted to enhance some points, so I added a slide about 3 hours ago. So anytime you are buying, again, just to make sure that you understand, you're buying Excel server, okay? It brings you this amount of licenses, 512 Provision-ISR, 60 third party. Anytime you're adding additional Provision-ISR transfer server, you're getting exactly the same amount of licenses, okay? So you don't need to buy it extra, it's already part of the cost, okay? Because it's exactly the same hardware. Okay, and with a storage server, this is working only as a transfer server, but it has no licenses. Okay, so if you need to add more and more devices, you cannot count on storage server to give you licenses with it. Okay, so this is about the licenses in case of Provision-ISR. Now let's talk about third party. So let's assume we have third party transfer server connected to third party server. So this is a, sorry, this is third party. Okay, yeah, sorry for this mistake. Okay. So this is a third-party management server. It has only 32 Provision-ISR channels embedded and 16 third-party channels for free. Anytime you want to add more and more hardware that is going to work as a transfer server, there are no licenses included into it, so you need to buy more and more according to the amount of channels you want to add. Okay, just to make clear that this part is clear for you. Okay, now another thing about licenses. If you are connecting to the VMS server of any type, connecting a third-party NVR, and this NVR, for example, NVR of 32 channels, even if you have just one camera connected to this NVR, it's going to occupy 32 licenses, because when we see NVR, we immediately occupy all the amount of cameras it can bring us, okay? So this is the logic behind the VMS server, and the same goes about the situation when you connect Provision-ISR DVR. So Provision-ISR DVR, exactly the same way, if you have DVR of 16 channels, even if you have just one camera connected to it, 16 channels are going to be already taken for licenses of Provision-ISR, no matter if you have there are more or less cameras. Okay, now this is the part where I give it to Ami to explain this part. So when we're talking about licenses, we have two types, Provision-ISR and third party. So Ami, please cover this
Yes.
topic.
So as you can see, we don't share prices on this presentation. However, the concept is very simple and easy for you to handle, and also for your customer. There is a price for a channel cost. The first line that you see is channel cost. Let's call it X. This X relevant when you order a third-party channel. On VIF, Hikvision, Dawa, Axis, doesn't matter which camera you connect, and you need a third-party channel, you will pay X. When you want to order Provision-ISR channel, you already have, and this is the column you see on the right side, you already have 50% discount, what we call Y, X minus 50%. So a Provision-ISR channel will cost you half the price of a third-party channel. And then you need to order channels, 10, 50, 100, or 300, according to what you need. It doesn't matter if it's a third-party or Provision-ISR channel, you have a discount according to the amount of channels you need to order. If you need to order 5 channels, which might happen, we don't like it, but it might happen, then you have a small discount. You have only 15% discount. But when you need to order 100 license, you already have 50% discount on the cost of the channel according to the channel you order, whether it's a third party or a Provision-ISR channel. I hope it's clear. When it comes to prices themselves, you have it on our price list. You can contact us. We will provide it to you, but you will get it also in your next price list. So stay tuned. Go ahead, Dylan.
Thank you, Ami. So now let's talk a little bit about the capabilities of clients. So we have here 3 different types of servers, small, medium, and Excel. So you can connect to those servers, and you can use either small server to small client or to medium, and etc. or you can use your PC computer and install VMS software on it, on the Windows or Mac, and you can use your smartphone to use Ossia VMS app. Okay. Now, if you're talking about how many of those can connect to the management server, depends on which one. So if you're talking about small one, you can connect either 4 clients, any kind of those, or 32 apps. Okay. Now, this is either this or this. Okay. Now, if you're talking about medium one, you can do a combination. You can do either half of it could be clients and half of it could be the app. Same goes about the Excel, the big one. Now, the one thing I would like to mention is about small one. Like all of those servers have an ability to show you client on hardware. But this one can be actually very used in a monitoring center because it's not that noisy. So you can basically do 2 operations on this unit. One part of it is going to run a server and the other part of it is going to show you the client. So basically, when you have this unit running and you need to have 2 more clients, you just add 2 more of those, and those small clients are going to be connected by network to this server. Okay, so you are going to have some operator working on this machine without even knowing that it's a server. Okay, and the other ones are going to connect to this one by network. So this is about the client. Now, this is a summary table where we see all the different limitations of different servers. And the only thing I didn't mention here is maybe this part. So all of those servers are capable of managing decoder for a video wall. But the small server has no storage option at all. Okay. And the medium one and the Excel big one is having 2 SATA base. So you can connect 2 hard drives of 10 terabytes and you can get up to 10 terabyte total storage. Okay. So this could be like not only a management server, but it could be a storage server partially. So you will have some channels recorded locally. Okay, and again, the PC server, it all depends on the hardware. There is the amount of licenses you are getting here. And regarding all the how many clients and how many apps and what is the amount of storage, it's all depending on the hardware that you are using. Okay, another topic that you need to remember, and this in some case could be a winner for you. This is when we are talking about many different sites, and the customer is not willing and doesn't need to see all of them at the same time. Basically, he will monitor the cameras only when it's needed, and he is going to be connected to up to 10,000 different channels. 2,500 devices, but he will be only able to see only 6 channels at the same time. Meaning that most of the time, all of those devices, all of those sites are silent. They are sleeping. Only when he is going to click on a specific site, he's going to wake them up and he's going to show those channels. Okay. Otherwise, all the rest are going to be sleepy. And in this case, this could be a winner in some projects because the customer might say, this is exactly the scenario I need. I don't want to buy too much hardware. I don't want to buy so many transfer servers. It's all expensive. I just want to have this server which is connected to all of my hardware. And anytime I need to be monitoring something, I will just do it by the operator and by the client. Okay, so you need to know about this scenario. Okay, next. So this is just a comment for you guys who are facing a situation where the customer is saying, I have one building with all the management servers and I have the recordings and I have some clients, but I would like to put a video wall on totally different building or even in some other town. So what you need to know, the bandwidth that you need to reserve for this kind of communication is a big one and it's supposed to be stable. So if, for example, you have 256 cameras that you need to display on this video wall, in substream, it means that you need to reserve 125 megabps that is going to be reserved for this kind of operation. Next, let's talk about storage. So anytime that you are using Excel or medium server, I already mentioned that you can put 2 hard drives of 10 terabytes. So eventually you can get up to 20 terabytes, but there is no RAID options on this one. Okay, so no RAID 5, 6, nothing. Okay, so you just can use those base to have some local recording on the server. If you're using third party, this is something we don't control, so we don't know what exactly hard drives you're going to use. So, and eventually you can use much more and you can have some local storage on the server. I'm just talking about Excel or medium server limitations on the hardware. And now the next thing you need to make sure that you know about, and this is going to be used in our calculator that I'm going to show you in a few minutes, is the problem is when you have a different type of hardware, and in any case, you will still need to use maybe some RAIDs. So in case that you want to make sure that your data is not going to be harmed in case of one of the hard drive malfunctions, you can use RAID 5 or RAID 6. So some of the hard drives are going to be reserved. So it will be like having extra hard drive in case of one of the hard drives is going to be broken, then the information recording will still maintain on the storage. Now, there is a RAID 5 that is going to cost you one hard drive, and RAID 6, which is going to cost you two hard drives that are going to be used only for this kind of securing your data. Now, there is additional mechanism which is called hot spare, and this is again included in the calculator I'm going to show you. It means that you can use additional hard drive, and this hard drive is going to be helping you to extract in the middle of work one of the hard drives and replace it with a working one. Okay, so you will see on interface of the storage servers that there is one of the hard drives is not working. You can use this hot spare while it's of course working. You can get it out and put good one and working one instead of this one, and it will continue working on. So, okay, so this is called hot spare. Okay, and now let's talk about easy to understand part. It's how dynamic your sites. Now, you remember I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation that there are alarms that are pushed to the management server. So anytime you have some motion or crossing line, it's going to push some image with a log into the VMS server. So what we did is we created three different levels of activity on site. So let's start with the most active one. Let's assume some shopping mall where you have a lot of activity, people walking different directions. So we are taking into account that it can generate up to 6,000 events. Okay, but we are talking about 12 working hours of the mall. So let's talk about 3,000 events per camera per day. Okay, so if we're taking into calculation how much it's per camera per second, so we're talking about 0.7 events per second per camera. Okay, this is a calculation, and we're going to see a drop down a field where you're going to define what is going to be the activity per each site. Now, if talking about medium activity, it means that we have much less activity. It could be something like an office. So we're talking about 400 events per camera per day in those 12 working hours. So we're talking about 0.009 events per second per camera. And the low one, if we're talking, for example, about some warehouse where from time to time you have some activity, somebody opens the door and gets in. So we're talking about 100 events per camera per day, which resulting as 0.002 events per second. Okay, and you're going to see it in a few minutes. And we are getting finally to the tool itself. So the tool itself is a HTML tool that you're going to fill up with some information related to the customer requests or existing equipment. So all you need to know is the next topics before you actually start filling it up. So you will need to ask your customer, how many sites do I have of the same type? Like, for example, shops. If I have a network of shops, how many of those shops? What exactly is the equipment in those shops? Like, if it's a third party NVR or Provision-ISR NVR, or maybe some directly connected cameras. Next one is how many clients you have here, like if it's a app or if it's your own PC or our hardware. There is going to be a question about video wall. Do you have video wall? How many monitors you want to use in this video wall? This is going to affect, of course, how many decoders you will need. And storage. So we'll ask him, okay, do you want to have some additional storage besides the NVR that is recording locally? Maybe you want to have some like a cloud storage, which is running on the monitoring center. Okay, so then you're going to ask for how long you want to record this information, like in days. Okay, So this is what we are going to ask the customer. And now I'm going to present you this tool with different scenarios of how we're going to react to different cases. Now, before we are getting to those cases, just for you to understand this interface. So let's, for example, assume that we have some site and we need to define this site even before setting how many sites we have. So the first question is going to be, do I have NVR there? Or there are some direct cameras without any NVR? And the next questions you will need to ask is, what kind of NVR it is? It's Provision-ISR NVR or it's third-party NVR or both? Same goes about camera. So it's a directly connected Provision-ISR camera or it's a third-party camera. Okay, so we need to ask all those questions to define our site. Okay, so now let's
Hey,
switch to the...
Ilan,
Yeah,
before you
yes.
start,
Mhm.
gentlemen, I know it's been 40 minutes, but that's the most interesting part, calculator. So pay attention. The way
Yes.
Ilan is going to present it is through a series of different projects, from a
Exactly.
small project to a very large project. And we will see it in action, how you calculate it. And the result of the calculation is both which hardware do you need and how much it costs. Now, we're not going to talk prices here. All the prices we use are made up, but you can put your prices and you can use it. So pay attention now. Go ahead, Ilan.
Yes, and you can use even your local currency. So we are going to talk about it. Now, I want you to remember the next scenario. We are talking about a network of coffee shops, and in each coffee shop, we have basically we have four of those shops, okay, four branches, and every shop is having just a small NVR of 8 channels, and in every site we have two cameras of 8 megapixels looking at the cashier, and four cameras of 4 megapixels overlooking the whole cafe. Okay, so this is the installation. We have four of those. Now, in control center, which is, let's just say, it's an office of the owner, he wants just to have one client, or for him, he doesn't know what is server, what is a client. He just want to see some kind of machine or his computer. In this case, he's asking us a Provision-ISR computer or a client. Give me a tool to see all my sites. Okay, so I want to monitor all those 24 cameras. How do I do it? So we're switching now to the tool itself. Okay. So in order not to waste time, this is how the tool looks like. I already filled up. The first part is where you filled up information about this client and why, because you can later on export it and save it with a customer. So he will immediately see the whole budget for the whole project. He will see what exactly the equipment he will need. So we're talking about a coffee shop network. This is the name of the network. This is happening in Australia, for example. You have a list of countries, and you have some details about this customer contact details. Now, next question. What kind of hardware you want to use? If you want to use your own hardware or you want to use Provision-ISR. So we're saying, yes, we want to use Provision-ISR. We are going to take a small one, but again, we know that it's going to be a small one. Again, let's see how we configure it. So I click here, there is an option, there is a button here, add site. I already clicked on it, so to save your time. And when it's opened, I name the site coffee shop. And then I say there is only four of those shops. And then the next question is going to be, okay, what kind of cameras we have there? So there is a button here, add camera. So I say, okay, there are two cameras of 8 mega. Okay. And this is the result of those 8 megapixel bandwidths, okay, in mega BPS. And in addition, you have here four more cameras, which are 4 megapixels, okay? And this is again calculated bandwidth. Now, we don't need to do any recordings currently, not yet, but what he mentioned in his discussion with us, this is very dynamic area. So we are going to choose here from alarm level a high, okay, which is going to generate a lot of events to our server because we need to take into account this information. Next one is how many clients you want to use in this project. So again, I remind you, this guy wants to see just, he's going to use just one machine, and he is going to look only at those 24 channels, okay? Now, Nothing else here to fill up because he's not using his own PC computer, and you have here some recommendations about what is going to be his hardware, okay, and no mobile, okay. So basically, and there is no video wall. So I just click on calculate solution, and you see here, this is a summary. So immediately the system calculated that we are talking about 24 cameras, what exactly are the amounts of resolutions and how many cameras of each type, and 4 NVRs. So this is a relatively small bandwidth calculated from this section. So this section is basically showing you how exactly he got to this number. So you see here that we are getting here 1 unit multiplied by 24 streams of substream. This is the value of substream, and we are getting to this number. And this is a calculation of alarm events. So we're getting here 4 sites, 6 cameras. This is amount of events per second, and we are getting this amount of events per second from all those cameras. So basically, multiplying by cost of each event, we're getting this amount, which is not too much, but this is the total. This is the total of bandwidth required in this project. And you can see that the system suggested you, sorry, to use this small server. Now you see this number, this is just some number we invented, and you can configure it, and you can even define what is going to be the currency. The only thing I'm unfortunately noticed only now, and this is a
Right.
bit
Ilan,
small flow.
Ilan, sorry, quick question. Never mind the flow. Uh,
Mhm.
what happens if I want to see much better than substream? I want to see master stream.
Okay, so in this case, the calculation is done for substream. Okay, we defined it specifically here because if you're using a mainstream, you're usually talking about just one specific channel. So if you just multiply 24 by 0.5, you're going to get 12 megabps, which is more
Okay.
than enough to see your camera, which is
Yes.
transmitting you only 8 mega. Okay, so
Okay.
I didn't want to get into too deep calculation, so I assumed that you're going to see a lot of small windows, which is costing you more than just seeing one big in main.
Okay. Let's move to the second project.
Okay, so what I want you just
Never
to
mind.
see about this sorry?
Let's move to the second
Uh,
project, Ilan.
I just I just want to explain about the configuration. So if you want to switch it to your own calculate to your own pricing, you can come here and you can set here the prices that you want to expose to the customer, and you can define here a specific currency that you are using locally. Okay, so you have here some more of the configuration. You click on solution and you're getting it with a specific currency and the prices you're going to set. Next one. Next project is exactly the same coffee shop, but this network is growing. So we are talking about more. We're talking about 8 branches, exactly the same situation in every shop, but the control center is going to be with 3 clients, and each one is going to monitor 30 cameras. He is going to put it in different locations. An additional requirement he wanted is to do some backup. So he wants to store those 4 megapixel cameras for 30 days for in the sub quality for 24 hours per day. And those more important cameras, which are overlooking the cashier, he wants to save for 30 days in main quality, but for only 8 hours per day of the working time. Okay, so this is the calculation we need to do. I'm coming back to exactly the same calculator. I am going to close the configuration here, and I'm going to go up. Okay, and this is our site number 1, but I'm going to choose instead of 4, I'm going to set here 8. And the cameras are going to be exactly the same, but we want to record. So I want to record 2 of those cameras. Okay, where I want to record in main quality, as I mentioned, 8 hours per day for 30 days. Okay. And I want to record those 4 cameras as well. Okay, I want to record 4 of them in sub quality, 24 hours for 30 days. Okay, so when I come here, I can define if I want to work with rates. Let's assume that we are not working with any rate. I click on calculate solution,
Wait,
and
Ilan.
we are now, yes.
He also mentioned that he wants 3 users to watch the VMS,
Ah,
not only
you
one.
are right. Exactly. Thank you, Ami. So he says, no, I don't want 1, I have 3. Okay, so I click here 3. I click on calculate, and we are now jumping over from the medium server to from a small server to medium server. Oh, sorry, no, we are jumping over to a large one because we went over those 20 terabytes. So let me just bring you to a bit smaller area. So let's assume that we are going to record the main, but for let's say 6 hours. Okay. So I click on calculate, and we are here in the level of medium server because we have total 20 terabytes limit is not crossed. This is a bandwidth that we can hold in the medium server, and the devices amount is enough. So what we see here is a calculation. This is an overload on the server, and this is a calculation of a storage. And how do we calculate it? We see that we calculate here 8 megapixel camera for 6 hours per day with this bandwidth. Okay, so this is what is the cost per day in gigabytes for every one of those sites. And this is for those 4 megapixel cameras. So in total, this is what we get from all those 8 sites. But again, I remind you, this is per day. Now we need to calculate for 30 days because this was the demand of the customer. So in total, we are getting to this amount of terabytes required to record this all those sites in different resolutions and I mean different qualities and for different duration. So the system is going to propose you this size of hard drives and the amount, and this is what you're going to see. So you're going to see here the specific server, his cost that you can define by yourself, and then you have 3 clients that are displayed here with the different costs. And this is just a mentioning for you that you will need 2 hard drives embedded into this medium-sized server. And there is some additional mentioning here that you will need some 8 NVRs, okay, which is not included because this is not a part of the calculation. It's just to mention that you will need it. Okay, so currently there is no problem with licenses. We are in a good situation. We don't need to buy extra. Now let's switch to more advanced project. So now we're talking about scenario number 3. We're talking about retail closing chain where we have 3 different scenarios, or actually 4. So we talk about shops, and we have a warehouse, and we have a monitoring center. Now in shops, we have 20 sites which are of the same type. We have in each site 16 cameras of 2 megapixels, and this is Provision-ISR NVRs. Okay. Next, we have another 10 sites which are having 8 cameras, but of 4 megapixels. Okay, and those are third-party NVRs. And this is site number, site called B. Okay, so we just have a different group of the same configuration. And then we have some externally installed cameras, like there is a couple of cameras in every place. They are monitoring outside of those shops. And we have 30 of those sites. And those are 2 cameras of 8 megapixels. And let's call it site C. Okay. On top of it, we have a warehouse with 4 different floors. And on every floor, we have NVR of 32 channels. And every NVR is having 16 cameras of 4 mega and 12 cameras of 8 mega. Now let's talk about monitoring center. So the customer asked for 2 clients, PC clients on his own hardware, 4 of our Provision-ISR clients, and he has some security officers, 3 guys who are browsing between those different places, and he wants to give them up access. On top of it, they requested a video wall with 8 monitors. So we'll need 2 decoders, and they want to display 300 channels on those on this big video wall. And on top of it, they ask to record some selected 50 different channels in main quality for 4 hours per day for 30 days, and they want to use a RAID 5. Now, instead of just showing you how I'm going to fill up, I already prepared this here. So this is a retail closing chain, like I explained. I gave it a name and etc. And I have shop A with 20 different sites.
Slowly, Ilan. Ilan, slowly,
Yes.
please. Slowly. Let's do it slowly.
Okay, no
Site
problem.
1.
Sorry.
What is site 1 again?
Site 1, we're talking about 20 sites of 16 cameras of 2 megapixel. Okay, everybody can see this part. This is site A.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm switching back here. This is site A. Okay, shop A, 20 sites. Okay, we are having here 16 cameras of 2 megapixels. 16 cameras of 2 megapixels. Okay, And I would like to record some of those cameras in main quality for 9 hours per day for 30 days. Okay, because I need to get to
So
50 cameras that I want.
you record from
Mhm.
every site only one camera
Yeah,
in
just
this
one because I
example.
want to get to exactly. As I mentioned, I'm going to talk about like 50 cameras that I want to record randomly. Some of them will become important, so I will set that some of the cameras I want to record on the server. Okay, so alarm level, let's say it's medium, and let's continue to site 2, which is 10 identical sites with 8 cameras, 4 megapixels, and I want to record, let's say, again, one camera here. Okay, exactly the same configuration. Site number 3, we're talking about street cameras, which are not connected to NVR. We have 30 of those sites. And we're talking about, you see, when I click here on add the direct camera, I have an option, which is going to be its Provision-ISR or third-party camera. Okay, so I'm saying there is a couple of those in every site, and those are 8 megapixel cameras. And I would like to record 2 of those from all those sites in sub. Okay, so it means that I'm going to record all of those cameras in sub quality 24/7 for 30 days. And the last one is the warehouse that I showed you in my presentation, where I have 4 NVRs of 32 channels, and I have 2 different type of cameras. Okay, so what I'm having here is those 2 different cameras types, 16 of 4 mega and 12 of 8 mega. Okay, and now the next question is, okay, how many PC clients you want? So the customer asked for 2. Okay, now while you're already filling up this form, you see there is a small I here. So you can see what is the minimum requirement for this PC hardware. Okay, so you don't need to look for it again. And he asked for additional 4 Linux, the small server, small client, sorry. So he wants to see through those as well, 30 channels, and from the PC clients, he wants to see 50, okay? And on top of it, he wants to have 3 mobile app users. Just to remind you again, those numbers are coming from this demand, okay? 2 PC clients, 4 Provision-ISR clients, and 3 of the app. Now we're going to talk about video wall and storage. Okay, so video wall. He asked to use 8 monitors, okay, and he wants to display 300 channels. So in this case, I can choose only 2 decoders, okay, and then I can define here the number. I remind you that per decoder, you can show up to 256 channels. So even if I'll try to put here 888, it's going to block you and it's going to limit you with this number. So in this case, they didn't want to get to the maximum. They're saying we are going to see maximum 300 channels at the same time over all those 2 decoders. And I just can add here my keyboard if you wish, so I can control my video wall. And on top of it, the customer asked to use a Provision-ISR server for storage, okay, because he can choose, he can use his own or he can use ours. And he asked to use a RAID 5. Okay, so we see here no RAID, RAID 5 and RAID 6. And you can even use hot spare. So I remind you, this is an option to extract a hard drive in the middle of work. Okay, so in this case, he didn't want to use this one. So I click on calculate, and immediately the whole thing is calculated. We see here the amount of channels and the total amount of cameras. And we see that there is a bandwidth, and this is the amount of terabytes you will need. Okay, so there is a calculation here on the bandwidth. You see here different groups of sites that generate different type of events. So you have a full calculation here. Now, if you look at the recording streams, so you see those recording streams are consumers of our bandwidth. So anytime I need to record it, it's all calculated here, and it's affecting very drastically the whole bandwidth requirement. We have 2 different type of clients. We have a PC client, which is viewing 50 streams on 2 machines, and we are getting this number just for those PC clients. This is our Provision-ISR client. This is what they require. Okay, this is the calculation. 3 users, 4 streams, 30 streams, 4 units, and this is substream. So this is what we are getting from Provision-ISR clients. And mobile, we have 3 users, 4 streams per each one, and substream, and this is what we are getting. As well, we have here a video wall. We have here 2 decoders. There is a calculation here. I will not get into it, but you can see what exactly is the cost of 300 channels be displayed on the video wall in the real time. Okay, and there is a value for alarms. Now, the other thing we need to see here is what is the calculation of storage, because we wanted to store here some cameras. So we see here for every site, what is the calculation? We have here 3 different sites. Actually, I didn't, one of them, I didn't put this warehouse is not included here because I didn't choose any camera there. I can actually go and do it with you just for presentation. So I am now in site number 4, warehouse, and I would like to record, let's say, 2 cameras out of this one in main quality. Okay, 24/7, 30 days. I will click calculate solution, and we are getting here to much bigger number in terabytes. And the calculator is going to show you here all of those sites and all the calculation per each site. And this is daily consumption. Now, if we're talking about multiplying by those 30 days, and of course you can set a different number for every different scenario, this is the amount of terabytes you will need, including a calculation of RAID 5, because he needs to take into account that you will need some extra hard drive for this one. Okay, so basically, as a result of it, you see that he as well is calculating, the tool is calculating for you the amount of licenses. You see that the Excel server having this amount of licenses. And in our case, we have some extra cameras which are not getting into this number. So he's saying, okay, you will need extra 60 licenses to make sure that you are covered in this project. Okay, so currently we see here the Excel server, its cost, of course, it's configurable, and you see here the extra licenses you need to buy for this project. Everything is calculated here. Same goes about client. Now, in our case, we're talking about 4 Provision-ISR clients, so it's already calculated for you. Again, multiply these numbers that you can set by yourself. And you have here a video wall, so you see 2 decoders, the cost, and the total amount. Okay, and the control keyboard. Okay, so there we ask to have a keyboard to control video wall and a joystick to control the PTZ cameras in this unit. So it's all calculated here. This is about the calculation. So now about the storage. So in this case, we will need some third part. Actually, this is our server. Okay, we defined it here. Let's go up. You see, there is Provision-ISR storage server. Okay, so we need to have this cost of this unit as well. So what we see here is a storage hardware. This is a unit, there is a price, and it just reminds you that you will need 5 hard drives. Okay, and you have here some additional information that is needed for you as a project definer. So you need to have some PC clients, and you need some NVRs. You see there are 2 PC clients that you need to use, and you have here the minimum requirements for those machines. Okay, and you have some kind of calculation here, which is based on the amounts you're going to set for every unit. Now let's go to the last scenario. And this is a bank. So in case of a bank, you have basically 200 branches of this bank. And this bank is having the same situation of 6 cameras. There are 2 cameras of 4 megapixels overlooking the ATM and 4 cameras of 2 megapixels inside the bank to see the people inside. In the control center, this customer requested, and he has like unique request because he cannot use our hardware. He says, I need to use. Sorry?
Mooi zo.
Second, I'm gonna
Hij had het nog over die radioreclame.
go ahead.
So in a control center, he wants to use his own PC, and he is going to use 2 computers, and he wants to use some recordings here for 90 days. And he has a very highly dynamic environment. And the major problem, or actually his main demand is, I don't want to use any of Provision-ISR hardware. I need to use my servers, which are in my servers room. So it's going to be a third-party management server and third-party storage server. Okay, so this is what we are going to define here. Again, to avoid
Ilan,
wasting your
with
time.
your permission,
Yes.
Ilan, with your permission, I would like you to, instead of 200 branches, I would like you to do 500 branches. No? Okay. Never mind.
I will explain. There is the calculator that we are going to
Never mind,
share with you.
Ilan, go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So again, you're going to get this tool and you will play with it and you will give us the comments. But currently, let me just explain you the logic behind it. Okay, later on, you are going to feed us with feedback. So we're talking about bank somewhere in Albania, the name of the customer, and etc. Actually, before I'm getting to this part, why do I need to fill this information? So let's come back to this project that we filled up with all this information and all this cost and etc. When you're happy with, or actually customers want to understand what exactly he's getting from you, you can save it. So this is going to export a file, okay? And when I open it, you are getting the summary of the whole project. So you can share it with the customer and show him exactly the calculation and what exactly is the equipment you will need for this specific project. So there is a summary in the same way I showed you. And this is going to be, again, I remind you, you can put here your own numbers and you could use your own currency. And eventually, this is what is going to be a very helpful tool when you need to give immediate answer on spot for the customer. Okay. Now let's talk about this bank. So I filled up this information, and in this case, you see I'm using customer own server hardware, not Provision-ISR. I'm talking about 200 sites. I'm talking about 6 cameras of 2 mega, exactly as he asked. I'm using it for recording on VMS storage. Okay, I'm setting it, it's going to be all those 6 cameras, and I want it to be for 90 days. Okay, this is what the customer asked for. And he wants additional 2 cameras, 4 megapixels, and he wants to store it in sub quality for again 90 days, and all those 2 cameras. Okay, he has a very active environment, so we're setting here alarm level is high. He's going to use just 2 of his clients. You see, minimum requirement here. Okay, not Provision-ISR clients, and he wants to see 30 different channels on this view. No video wall, and the storage, he is using his own third-party storage server, okay, with a rate 5, for example. So I'm just going to give him a suggestion, but I'm not going to do anything without, there is no hardware involved in from our side. So I'm clicking on calculate, and we are getting here to the numbers. So because we have 200 sites, we are getting 200 NVRs, and this is amount of cameras. And with this is amount of this is actually the bandwidth that is required for this project. This is amount of storage we will need to record for 90 days. So there is a calculation here. And eventually, this is the calculation of third-party licenses. So you see, basically in this case, he is using Provision-ISR because those NVRs are Provision-ISR. So there's a calculation of how many channels he will need to use. And there is something that we didn't implement yet, but it's a third-party storage server if you are adding a third-party storage. So currently there is no charge for it, but it's going to be like external unit. And you have here some recommendations. So this customer will need to use his own VMS hardware. There is a minimum requirement here. He will need to use his own storage server, and there are some suggestions here of how many hard drives he will need for this project. And this is amount of NVRs he will need for every branch. And this is amount of clients he will need to use. And this is a recommendation about the hardware he will need to have for minimum requirements. Okay, again, this might be too much information to throw at you, but we are going to share with you this tool, and we are going to get all the feedbacks from you. And of course, it's going to have more and more versions, but our goal is to make sure that your life is going to be easy anytime you're going to define a project. So you will not need to remember all those parameters when you're defining it. You just need to put inside the information, and the tool is going to spill out all the requirements for this project. Now, just to finish this presentation, there is a form we created that is going to be shared with you. So anytime you need to ask for additional licenses, you're going to fill out this form and you're going to send us some pictures regarding the status of the server. So we are going to send you back after the payment the licenses that is needed for your server. It could be for Provision-ISR or third party, it depends on your project. So you are going to get a link to it. Ami, if you want to add something to it.
Yes, up until now, when you order licenses, you always had to fill up an Excel form, So now instead of the Excel form, there is a file, a very easy file. You just need to fill up information and upload the images, and we get it immediately. That's it, right, Ilan, from your side?
Yes, but again, I want to enhance the calculator you're going to get. You will play with it. You will fill up some information. Any questions you have or any inconsistencies you are going to find what you know, what to explain and the results. Please share with us, with me specifically, because I am building this tool. You can always find me, Ilan at provision-ISR.com. And again, I will take all of your comments and I will embed them into this new version. So it will answer all of your requirements. And I already got this morning a few feedbacks that will require me to change this version. But again, start using the tool, and every time we're going to release new version, we're going to update you.
Thank you very much, Ilan. Very well. I hope you found this information helpful. I'm sure that once you start playing with the VMS calculator, you will see that it's very easy to use, very handy. I know we cover many topics, but once you get into it, you see that it's quite easy to handle. Thank you very much for joining.